The gentleman yields. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Weinstein, thank you again for this opportunity. Early on in your testimony, when we were having a colloquy in the first round, I think, you talked about events, anti-Semitic protests and the like around the country. Do you guys have any information or indication whether any of that is a product of foreign malign influence? That is to say, we're all aware we've had fairly controversial foreign influence task force at the FBI, and the issue with the foreign malign influence allegedly spread through social media, and what the FBI has done to curtail that. We had the Murthy versus Missouri case just came out from the Supreme Court today, in which they said there's no standing for people who feel like their speech was suppressed to challenge that in the United States in court. But what about the protests? So it was, what I meant when I said earlier about post-October 7 things, I was just stunned to watch Palestinian flags, 300,000 people, marching through streets. I just didn't know that was the nature of the politics we had in the United States, even at this point. And then, of course, we've seen all of the protests, some of them involving significant vandalism, tent settlements, a lot of building vandalism at universities across the country. Is there foreign malign influence in that?
So you put your finger on a very critical issue. Obviously, if there were, that would be, if I was aware of anything, that'd be based on intelligence sources and methods.
So you couldn't talk about it?
I couldn't speak about it in an unclassified context. But let me just say that is an issue that we in the intelligence community focus on, not just with this round of protests, but with all protests, because we're seeing that is one of the entries in our adversaries' menu, right? Try to foment agitation within the United States, sow discord. We've seen that over and over, and one of the ways of doing that is to try to sort of sow disorder on the streets. So,
are there programs, are there government resources that are available to deal with that in any way? So again, the Foreign Influence Task Force, that's a publicly known thing. They're supposed to be, they say they are working to counter foreign malign influence on social media. Are there programs, or I guess if you can't really speak to it, even if you can't speak to the risk, can you talk about whether there are resources that are devoted to trying to address that in any way?
Sure, and once again, I'm answering as to sort of any foreign malign influence, sort of put aside whether it relates to any particular protest. Absolutely, the Foreign Malign Influence Center is up and running and is focused on that. The FBI, obviously, that is a counterintelligence threat. So if a foreign nation state or a foreign terrorist organization is trying to foment discord with any groups here in the United States, that is by definition a counterintelligence threat, and it's a subject of something that the FBI can investigate. And that's the kind of matter that they do investigate.
Okay, now my remaining time, I want to revisit this same topic a couple times that I've tried to address a couple times. I've read from Director Abizaid's response back in November 2022. I had another crack at her in November 2023, and I kind of went at the same issue again, whether the number, just sheer volume of cross-border crossing and presents a significant risk of terrorism. She said at one point, "I appreciate the question. We absolutely recognize the kind of vulnerabilities that are associated with border security across all our ports of entry across southwest border and otherwise, but I would maintain, and I talk to my analysts about this on a regular basis, that as we look at the global terrorism environment, as we look at foreign terrorist organizations' intentions to try and seed operatives into the United States, we don't have indications that are credible or corroborated that those terrorist organizations are trying to do that at this time." Do you join in that opinion at this time?
Well, let me answer that in a couple of ways. That was obviously an answer at that point in time.
Has it changed?
November 2022.
This was 23, actually.
November 23. And so that was at that point in time. In terms of what the terrorism threat there is, whether there are any particular threat actors, I would have to defer to the FBI, NCTC, and my colleagues who will give you a brief in the closed session.
So you can't really answer the question whether that still obtains?
I cannot answer what the intelligence picture is in an open setting. One way.
It just seems, I will just tell you as an American citizen observing, it seems like the Tajik story, it seems like the NBC story I related earlier, it seems like the Vice Admiral on Fox News saying we're receiving probing visits a couple times a week at military installations in the United States. I did a hearing recently in a subcommittee on the sheer, on the, 1,100% increase in Chinese national migration. And but she was prepared to say that, and you can't say one way or the other today.
No, keep in mind, I'm answering the question what the intelligence picture is and telling you that I just can't do it publicly. But I can say this. We see that as an area that we need to focus on, and we're spending a lot of time focusing on it, and we're redirecting resources to focus on the border, and I've explained why and what we're doing. So in terms of the seriousness with which we take that concern, we're taking it very seriously.
Thank you, Mr. Weinstein. I yield back.